So, you probably clicked on this video and have probably seen videos like this 1,000 times. But hey, YouTube is a cruel mistress, and the algorithm is a harsh system to get through. But hey, if you did click on this video, I appreciate the like and subscribes. I could have worded that better, but hey, have you ever known me to be, reading from a script? Obviously not. So you clicked on this video and thought, what horror movie recommendations would you give random person online? What would you give me, some Joe Schmo online? What horror movies would you give me to watch this Halloween season? You put Freddy on the icon. I already know about Freddy. What would you recommend, random person? Well, let me tell you, random person online watching this video, I have some horror movie recommendations of some movies you can pick up and watch or stream, depending on how you feel. I personally believe in physical copies because you get to actually own it, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm going to go through some horror movies off the beaten path and talk about these films to you and kind of make some recommendations for some lesser-known horror movies from across the ages. So let's get started. Our first one is a recent, and I do mean today as of this recording, acquisition of mine, Isle of the Dead, starring Boris Karloff. This movie is from the Val Lewton collection, which I have talked high praise about Val Lewton movies. Val Lewton was a producer for RKO Pictures, and essentially a lot of his horror movies are more like deep psychological, and he was the guy who invented the jump scare, or it was called the Lewton Bus from Cat People. I am in the midst of trying to collect more Val Lewton movies. So far, counting this, I only have two. This and The Body Snatcher, which also stars Boris Karloff, which is also good. I think that one would really work as well. Other films I'd love to own from them from Val Lewton are like I Walked with a Zombie, The Seventh Victim, The Leopard Man. Cat People is the white whale. Like the original 1943 Cat People is the white whale. But I digress. So my good friend Chris sent me this. Thank you as always, brother. And yeah, Isle of the Dead is a movie I saw years ago. And I keep in mind, I was like in my early 20s when I first saw this on TCM. Scared the crap out of me. Like, there are some legit... jump scares don't usually get me, but they have two solid jump scares that come out of nowhere, and they scared the crap out of me. The story is, it basically follows a general played by Boris Karloff and some of his soldiers traveling to an island where they believe they are under attack by a vampire known as a Vovalika. And it's a deep psychological story. It is a vampire story of sorts, but there's so much more to that. I'm giving you the bare bones. This movie is awesome. I really do dig it. It's got some great shadows. Watch it in the dark. I think you would really appreciate it more watching it at night in the dark. Next up, we're going to do some Hammer films. Starting off with The Mummy Shroud. The Mummy Shroud is basically a horror movie that is part of the Mummy cycle from Hammer, the films they did. The Mummy Shroud basically follows a billionaire explorer who's a total jerk, and he and his crew wake up a mummy named Prem, who goes about killing all those who's disturbed the young prince's tomb. There's a lot more to it, and again, you have to understand that this is of the time, so there are some discrepancies on how Egyptians are treated, so you have to remember this as of the times. It doesn't make it good. I have to stress, that doesn't make it better, but like, you have to understand this movie is of the time. I think it's actually a underrated Hammer film. I think it is a incredibly underrated Hammer film, and I do thoroughly believe that this movie it got some solid kills in it. It's got a interesting mummy design, and there's a lot more like deeper connection to like how people view people from other nations. It's a lot deeper than you think, but I really do like it. Also, I love the movie poster. Next up, this one's more fun. This one is if you want to watch something fun over the Halloween season, I would recommend this, and that is Sundown: The Vampires in Retreat. This movie is a more horror comedy type film. Essentially, what the film is about, it basically follows a commune of vampires led by David Carradine, who is actually Dracula, and they are beset by a descendant of Van Helsing. But here's the kicker. The descendant of Van Helsing is played, and I'm not joking, by Bruce Campbell. I mean, that should sell it for you already, right? Like, Bruce Campbell is a bumbling descendant of Van Helsing, and he's fighting David Carradine, who's trying to be a peaceful vampire. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a nice Western horror type story. There's a lot more to it than that, but I'm just giving you the fun points. David Carradine is Dracula, Van Helsing played by Bruce Campbell. Why aren't you watching this movie now? It was a criminally underrated 90s movie. Like, I didn't know about this film until, like, I was watching another YouTube channel who's been a major inspiration for me as of late, called the Cobwebs channel. And basically, I was like, this sounds like a cool idea. And it is. Again, it's more of a horror comedy, but if you want to watch something light in the mid, because there ain't much light in this collection. So I thought I'd give you a little taste of, like, what you could have in for just a little change of pace. Next up, we have the movie that scares me the most. And you're probably thinking, well, why do you have it in your collection, Multi? Like, if it scares you so bad, why do you have this movie? Because I believe I think it's more like like dominating my fears thing. Also, sometimes you just want to be scared. And that is The Haunting, the original 1964 one. This movie, I'm not talking about the remake with Liam Neeson and almost said Leslie Nielsen. That would have been a whole different movie. And Owen Wilson, where he gets his head ripped off by a lion statue head thing. I haven't watched that movie in years. But this movie is scary as hell. You don't see any ghosts, but you feel the presence all the time. This is the other movie, much like with Isle of the Dead. I highly recommend you watch this movie in the dark, and because this movie will grip onto you the entire time. The last time I watched it, I was like, the only light was coming from the TV screen, and it was so unnerving. Like, this movie does not let you go for a second, and the scares and what's inferred is terrifying. Next up, we're going to go to the 80s with Night of the Creeps. This is another horror movie that's much like Sundown. This movie is another fun one. It's a great there was a brief moment in horror movies in the 80s where they wanted to emulate sci-fi movies from the 50s, hence why we got the Blob and Fly remake. This is an original concept, though. Essentially, it follows a pair of college kids who are kind of suck, and after trying to get into a college fraternity, they accidentally wake up a zombie who is actually possessed by parasites, like alien parasites that turn people into zombies. It also has Tom Atkins in arguably his best role, even more so than Halloween 3, and I love Halloween 3, but this, I think, is his best role of all time. And, of course, he says arguably the best line ever, "Thrill me." Next up, this is a little more modern movie, Bone Tomahawk. This is a Western horror film starring Kurt Russell, which already you're like, okay, and also has cameos by, the actor who played Dewey from Scream. Why am I forgetting his name? And a few other horror names here and there. And has Patrick Wilson. I think this is before The Conjuring, but this is like one of his first horror movies. The story it follows Kurt Russell, who's the sheriff of a local town, and after several of their townsfolk are kidnapped by a group of primal, cannibalistic Native Americans, him and a small group of others travel deep into the western wilderness in order to find them. This movie is brutal. It's a harsh look at the the Old West, and it's arguably the best Western horror film I have ever seen. And I love Old West, especially when you mix it with horror. And this is the perfect example of it. This is a very brutal film. It's got some realistic scares, and it's graphic. There is one kill you are not going to forget in this movie. I tell you that now. Next up, we have Black Sabbath, another Boris Karloff movie. I seem to have a lot of those. This is a horror anthology, which normally I don't like. It's really Creepshow and about only a handful of horror anthologies I do like. I don't own Creepshow. I can't believe that. Anyway, But this Black Sabbath one is the reason why we had the band Black Sabbath. Rest in peace, Ozzy. And this movie is also directed by Mario Bava, a Italian horror director who did Pieces. They did Demons, gory person, but this is a more artsy kind of horror anthology. It tells 3 stories. One involving a woman who steals from a dead witch, another involving a call girl who's getting calls from beyond the dead, and Boris Karloff starring in the 3rd story about a Serbian vampire tale called The Vodolak. All 3 of them are great. They all have great scares in them. They're high tension. And again, this is another movie to watch in the dark. I really recommend it. Next up, we're going to do 2 horror Hammer films, starting off with The Abominable Snowman of the Himalayas. This is an early Hammer film, so it's in black and white, but it does have Peter Cushing in it. Essentially, what this horror movie is a story about Peter Cushing and a group of other scientists and American hunters going deep into the Himalayas to find the Yeti. This is a dark, atmospheric kind of snow film. I would recommend watching this on a cold night. I think it would be really cool. And yes, don't worry, you do see Yetis, and this is arguably one of the scariest Bigfoot movies you've never heard of. I actually have talked about this movie a few times over, but I thoroughly recommend you give this movie a shot. It's a brilliantly shot film, and again, it was before Hammer was really starting to dip their toes into horror. I think this was a little after the Quatermass experiment, where they're like, yeah, I think that horror is the future for us. Next up, we have The Devil Rides Out, another Hammer film, and this is where they peaked. This also has one of those rare films where Christopher Lee is the good guy. This is a movie that is a satanic horror kind of story involving Christopher Lee and a band of other nobles trying to stop a satanic cult while trying to save their friend from being taken over by the devil. There's some great scares in here. It's almost like a spy movie, and it gives you just a little bit of what it's like one of those rare moments where Christopher Lee just steals the show as the hero, and this was one of his favorite performances. Great film. It's got some great scenery and some solid scares too. Next up, Happy Birthday to Me. This movie is gonzo, just an absolute gong show of a movie, especially by the end. This movie just turns into an absolute gong show by the end of the film. This movie it's basically about a young girl who, along with her preppy friends, are being picked off one by one in bizarre murders. There's a lot more to it than that, but if you want to see an off-the-beaten-path slasher, here you go. Now for our another fun one. Theater of Blood. This is a Vincent Price movie where he plays a failed Shakespearean actor who proceeds to hunt down all of his critics one by one and kill them off in the forms of Shakespearean deaths. This is Vincent Price at just absolutely bizarre. This is just him going off the rails. This movie is so much fun to watch. I highly recommend it. It is a great film. It's a fun film. If you ever wanted to see Vincent Price have a mohawk, have an afro and call himself Butch, here you go. Sorry, getting an important text. I'm so professional on this channel. Next up, and finally our last one. This is a more fun and fright one. Night of the Demons. I know this one gets talked about a lot in terms of film, when you get horror recommendations, but this movie is on Halloween night. And I think it's a perfect Halloween movie to put in your Halloween recommendations, like John Carpenter's Halloween and a few other movies set during Halloween. This is another one, and I know this one gets talked a lot about, but there's good reason. If you don't know what this movie is about, it basically follows a group of teenagers on Halloween night in the 80s going to a party at a haunted at a haunted funeral home, and you can probably guess what happens next. It's so much fun. There's great gore, and if you're looking for some TNA, trust me, they got some. So those are just some horror recommendations for all of off the beaten path horror recommendations for you. I know you've probably seen a lot more of them, but I thought I'd give you guys some cool recommendations of fun and scary and a few others. So there you go, guys. Hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.